No, this video is not clickbait. I'm going to show you how this water heater right here heats this home. Pause. Future red here. This video might be a little bit confusing at first, but I promise it will all make sense. First, I'm going to show a real world application, and then afterwards, I'm going to explain how it works. If you don't care about seeing the real world application, skip to this time in the video. Otherwise, let's go. We got standard water heater stuff here. But then right here, we have a pump. This thing works pretty similarly to a conventional system. We have here our outdoor AC unit that looks just like any other AC unit. And that has its own cooling coil. The hot water has its own heating coil, which pumps on a different loop. So our water in, water out. All right, now that you've seen a real world application, let's dive into how this thing works. Right here, we have our water heater, okay? And then here we have the pump, the same thing you've already seen. And this is our water out of the water heater, and it pumps over to our air handler. Now, I know this air handler doesn't look like the one we saw in the video, but this one is easy to do our little mock-up drawing with. So, and then we have our water out that goes back to the water heater. Now this pump right here, it doesn't have to be here, but sometimes they come installed on the unit. So there's different options for that. It could be inside the unit or it could be by the water heater, does not really matter. Now this air handler is going to be connected to your outdoor condenser, and it's going to have its own cooling coil in here. So it does, that air handler takes care of both, and you just control it at the thermostat. So yeah, pretty simple, all things considered. Firstco is the manufacturer that we deal with the most in Southern California. Now they're out of Texas, and I know that there's other manufacturers that make similar product lines, but if we go to their website here, we can click on products. This is the one that I showed you guys while I was on that job. And we've got this guy right here. It's got a pump installed. It's got a hot water coil and a DX cooling, which means refrigerant. So pretty nifty. We can go back to products and we can see their air handlers. And this is what I showed you in that little diagram. We've got a whole product line of air handlers with hot water heat. So some of them have variable speed motors, some of them have pumps installed. They have applications for tankless water heaters as well. So they do not discriminate. All right, so now that you know how this thing works, should you just go and rip out your current heating system and install one of these bad boys in your home? Answer is probably no. But we're gonna go over some pros and cons of these systems. Pro number one, you get efficient heat. Now I called Firstco and asked them how efficient is the heat, and they basically told me they can't give me a number. There's a lot of options and they don't have exact efficiency ratings, but it will be an efficient heater. Pro number two, we're gonna have less breakdowns typically. Now this is just typically, but look at it like this. There's not a lot of working parts here. So we have the water heater, we have the pump, and then in the air handler, we have the coil and the fan. If you compare that to a modern furnace, that is a lot less components at play that can fail. Pro number three, these things are honestly, I mean, not gonna be super expensive as far as labor to install. It's pretty simple. You just add a water line and connect it. So And there's more to it than that, but the systems aren't terribly expensive. They cost roughly the same as a typical air handler, maybe a teensy bit more. It's not going to cost you an arm and a leg to get this thing installed. Now, cons. Con number one, find someone to work on it if it breaks down. That call that I was on, I was the second contractor. The first guy showed up, wanted nothing to do with the system. Lots of companies, once you call, they'll just turn you away. Con number two, assuming that you're doing this on a new build, you're gonna have to get your HVAC guy and your plumber to work together. Getting any two trades to work together on new construction is just, it's a nightmare. Con number three, and probably the biggest con that there is, these things are sent out with a 1-year warranty. Yeah, not good. Most HVAC warranties are 5 or 10 years. These are essentially sold as commercial systems with a 1-year warranty. If anything breaks after 1 year, you're on the hook for all parts and labor. This is probably the biggest reason in my mind that these things are not installed more often. All right. So last thing I want to bring up would be, what would be the perfect application for this thing? They're common in multifamily homes. So like the one that I was at was a townhouse. They're common in apartment buildings. They're not common in single family dwellings. I don't really know exactly why that is. I couldn't tell you, but if you have a single family dwelling, I'm almost done. The situation where I could see it working the best would be if you have a mechanical closet with a water heater and a air handler going right next to each other. If you have that, then the cost to install it and the costs to operate it are going to be the cheapest scenario out of any other alternative. Working on it shouldn't be a problem because everything is in one space, and yeah, so now you know.